Okay, moving forward. That was a lot about Nebraska, Colorado, but of course it was going to be. I think we fully expect that there. Let's talk the number 12 Utah Utes. They are favored by 7.5 points on the road at Baylor with an over-under 47.5 points. This game, I had to double-check this one, kicks off at noon on ESPN, noon Eastern. Early game there for Waco. These two teams have never met on the gridiron before, and yet they're going to be Big 12 foes next year. So interestingly, they're going to go from never playing to playing, maybe not every year, but consistently. Now, important to note, Blake Shapen, he is out 2 to 3 weeks with an MCL injury. Sawyer Robertson is going to start in his place. He's a pretty good-sized kid, former 4-star prospect who started out with Mississippi State, transferred in. Pretty good short and intermediate passer, has some pretty good zip on the ball. He's got a decent arm. He's not a burner with his legs, but he will and can move when he needs to. Now on the other side, Cam Rising, Brant Keithy, they're still questionable. They didn't play last week. A lot of guys didn't play last week for Utah. That were a lot of surprises. We'll get into that here in a second. Last I saw, they called Cam Rising a true game time decision. So keep in mind there, the market is certainly taking into account that he is not guaranteed to play. But we saw Bryson Barnes come in and first play of the game, 70-yard touchdown. So he's pretty talented. I think he'll be able to keep things together. One thing I was really concerned about, Baylor's offensive line was absolutely whipped by Texas State last week. 2 starters on that Baylor offensive line allowed 13 pressures against Texas State's defensive line. And no offense to them, but they're not Utah's defensive line. Last week, a lot of guys didn't start. They were missing Junior Tafuna. He was out. He's back this week. They're starting missing 2, I think, starters along that offensive line, defensive line, at least. Now they come up and they get to absolutely feast on this Baylor offensive line that did not play very well. If you got the opening number under 7, congratulations. That's a great bet. I wasn't able to scoop it up, and that probably isn't coming back.
Yeah, I'll get to Baylor in a second. I'm going to start with the favorite, as I always do. We start with my projected winners. I have Utah minus 11. So, yeah, if you got it at under 7, well done. It's a 78% win expectancy. While my eyes weren't overly impressed with Utah in their 24-11 home win against Florida, and all eyes were on them, it was that weeknight game. They had the primetime slot, no NFL going yet. The model actually viewed it as a slightly positive performance, which I was a little bit surprised by, to be completely honest, but that's why I have the model. That's why I use it to adjust what my eyes are seeing too. The Utes are up nearly a point in the ratings and are number 16 nationally. The defensive improvement from 22 to 14 was just slightly more than the offensive regression from 12 to 21. And again, no Cam Rising, so you weren't expecting them to actually play like the number 12 team or 12 offense in the country without QB1. I expect Utah to have the edge on both sides of the ball in this one, especially when their offense is out there against the Baylor defense. And speaking of Baylor, you touched on it, like, what the heck happened in week 1 against Texas State? 97% win expectancy. It's the highest of any team that lost the game in week 0 or week 1. It means Baylor is currently my number 1 underachieving team early in this 2023 season. I mean, again, it's going to change, but you're behind the 8 ball by a whole game now. I mean, you had a 97% win expectancy. That's 0.97 wins you're expecting to get. You got 0. You're nearly a full game below expectation before you've even gotten on the board. Like, this is not good for Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears, a team that many people had as kind of a sleeper pick in the Big 12, a chance to maybe bounce back after a good 21, not a great 22. Can they get back to that form? Man, they're a long way from it. Only Arkansas State and North Texas fell further in my power ratings this week. The Bears are down more than 6 points, and they plummeted from number 28 to number 55 overall. The 27-spot drop in the rankings is the largest for any team in the negative direction this week. Offense dropped just slightly from 30 to 38, but it was the defense, as you mentioned, that took a nosedive from 49 to now 96. I mean, yikes, dude. It's just not good. Now that defense is expected to stop a top 25 Utah offense. I don't see it. The game's in Waco, but that didn't help the Bears last week. So I don't know, man. Bottom line, I have Utah minus 11 on the road. It equates to a 78% win expectancy for the Utes.
Yeah, I'm actually on the other side of 10 here. I've Utah by about 9 points. I'm trusting your numbers better than my aggregated ones. There's been some funny numbers this week in it that I need to double check here. But again, the way that Baylor's offensive line played against Texas State, I said it before, I'm not trying to dig at Texas State. Maybe they have a great game-wrecking defensive line. Maybe it'll show up all year, but I could be wrong. I don't think that's what it is. I think Baylor's offensive line just played really, really poorly And now this is just an enormous mismatch as Utah returns all their stars. I think they're absolutely going to dominate that. We'll see if it touches 7 again. I don't mind laying that. I also don't think it will touch 7 again. I am going to look at maybe some under rushing totals for Richard Reese and Dominic Richardson if those become available, when those become available. FanDuel typically, Bet Rivers is the other one that releases those pretty early. Those are the two I'll probably be looking at just because they're not going to be running behind much blocking.